What if the secret to building generational wealth was hidden in a love story written 3,000 years ago? Not in a business school textbook, not in a Silicon Valley podcast, but in the ancient fields of Bethlehem, where one man proved that you can become extraordinarily wealthy without selling your soul. His name was Boaz. And before you think this is just another Bible story, let me tell you what he really was: a real estate mogul, an agricultural entrepreneur, and a master negotiator who built an empire so successful that his bloodline produced kings. Not just any kings, but King David. And eventually, his family tree led directly to Jesus Christ himself. But here is what will blow your mind. Boaz did not build his fortune through the tactics modern business gurus tell you are necessary. He did not crush his competition. He did not exploit his workers. He did not cut every corner to maximize profit. Instead, he did something that sounds completely insane by today's standards. He left money on the table. He protected the vulnerable. He operated with radical transparency. And he became one of the wealthiest men of his generation. Now, before we go any further, I need you to do something right now. If you are serious about building wealth that lasts beyond your lifetime, hit that subscribe button. And here is the real test. Drop a comment below saying, "Boaz, if you are ready to commit to these 7 principles." Because what I am about to share is not theory. This is a proven blueprint that has created more lasting prosperity than any modern business strategy. And the 5th principle? That is the one 90% of successful entrepreneurs completely ignore. Yet, it is the key to why their wealth disappears within 1 generation. Picture this scene with me. The sun is just rising over the hills of Bethlehem. Golden fields of barley stretch as far as you can see. Dozens of workers are already moving through the harvest, their sickles flashing in the early morning light. The air is filled with dust and the sound of grain being cut and bundled. Then, a figure appears at the edge of the field. This is the owner, Boaz. He is walking toward his workers, and everyone notices. They pause to see what he will say. Will he bark orders? Demand higher productivity? Criticize their technique? No. Instead, the first words out of his mouth are these: "The Lord be with you." And here is what stops me every single time I read this passage. They respond immediately. "The Lord bless you." They call back. This was not scripted. This was not some corporate slogan they memorized in orientation. This was genuine. This was culture. And it reveals the first game-changing principle. Principle 1. The foundation of winning culture. In the Book of Ruth, chapter 2, verse 4, we see Boaz establishing something that Harvard Business School calls psychological safety, and Google's project, Aristotle, identified as the #1 predictor of team success. But Boaz was doing this 3 millennia before modern research caught up. He created a culture where the presence of something greater than profit was acknowledged every single day, not in a manipulative way, not as empty religious performance, but as the genuine foundation of how business was conducted. His greeting, "The Lord be with you," set the tone for everything that followed. Now, I know some of you are thinking, that is great for ancient Israel, but what does blessing your employees have to do with hitting quarterly targets? Everything. Let me break this down with hard data that modern companies are finally discovering. Companies with strong positive cultures have 33% higher revenue growth. They experience 51% lower turnover. Their employees are 300% more innovative. This is not motivational fluff. This is from studying thousands of organizations over decades. When people feel valued, when they sense they are part of something meaningful, when leadership genuinely cares about their well-being, performance skyrockets. Think about Chick-fil-A. They close on Sundays, losing billions in potential revenue. Every business consultant said they were crazy, yet they generate more revenue per restaurant than any fast food chain in America. Why? Culture. Their employees are not just workers. They are valued team members, operating under principles bigger than profit. Sound familiar? Boaz pioneered this 3,000 years ago. Or consider Costco. They pay their workers significantly more than competitors. Wall Street analysts constantly criticize them for it. Yet their employee retention rate is 94% compared to the industry average of 65%. The money they save on training and turnover dwarfs what they spend on higher wages. This is the Boaz principle in action. When you build a foundation of genuine care and values-based culture, the financial returns follow as a natural consequence. But wait, because the second principle is where most businesses fail before they even start. Principle 2, the intelligence of strategic investigation. In Ruth chapter 2, verse 5, Boaz asks his foreman a question that reveals his mindset. Who does this young woman belong to? Now, before this sounds outdated, understand what is actually happening here. Boaz just spotted something unusual in his business environment, a new person, a new variable, and his immediate response was not to ignore it or make assumptions. His response was to investigate. This is the principle of due diligence, and it separates successful entrepreneurs from failed ones. Boaz ran his operation with eyes wide open. He observed. He asked questions. He gathered intelligence. He made decisions based on information, not impulses. Do you know how many businesses fail because people skip this step? 75% of venture-backed startups never return cash to investors. Why? Often because entrepreneurs fell in love with an idea without properly investigating the market, the competition, the unit economics, or the team they were building. Boaz was different. When he saw Ruth gleaning in his field, he did not just notice her appearance. He inquired about her background. He discovered she was a Moabite widow. He learned she had left her entire homeland to care for her mother-in-law, Naomi. He found out about her reputation for loyalty and her incredible work ethic. All of this intelligence gathering happened before he made a single decision about her. Think about the modern application. Before you bring on a business partner, do you really know them? Have you checked references? Have you seen how they handle adversity? Before you invest in a market opportunity, have you validated the demand? Before you hire that superstar candidate, have you verified their claims and talked to people who have actually worked with them? I have watched entrepreneurs lose everything because they trusted charisma over character, promises over proof, potential over performance. Your gut feeling is important, but it should confirm what your investigation has already revealed, not replace it. Boaz teaches us that the best business leaders are like intelligence analysts. They gather data, they ask hard questions, they observe patterns, they make informed decisions. And this careful approach protected his wealth and multiplied his opportunities. But the third principle is the most counterintuitive of all, and it is about to challenge everything you think you know about maximizing profit. Principle 3, the profitability of purposeful generosity. Here is where Boaz does something that would make every profit-maximizing consultant have a heart attack. In Ruth chapter 2, verses 15 and 16, he gives his workers explicit instructions. Let her gather among the sheaves, and do not rebuke her, and also pull out some handfuls for her from the bundles, and leave them for her to glean. Wait, what? He is telling his employees to intentionally leave inventory behind, to purposely reduce efficiency, to deliberately lower profit margins? This sounds like business suicide. But here is what Boaz understood that most modern entrepreneurs miss. Strategic generosity is not an expense, it is an investment. This principle comes from what God commanded in Leviticus. Farmers were not supposed to harvest the corners of their fields or gather every last stalk. They were required to leave something for the poor, the widow, and the foreigner. This was not charity. This was systemic justice built into the business model itself. Boaz took this further. He did not just passively leave corners unharvested. He actively instructed his team to pull out extra handfuls and leave them for Ruth. He was creating abundance for someone in need, but he was doing it through a system, not through random acts of charity. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the smartest companies are finally figuring this out. Patagonia donates 1% of all sales to environmental causes and builds repair programs to extend product life. This should hurt their bottom line, right? Wrong. Their revenue exceeds $1 billion annually, and their customers are fanatically loyal because they believe in the mission. Or look at Warby Parker. For every pair of glasses sold, they distribute a pair to someone in need. They literally give away half their product. Yet they are valued at over $3 billion. Why? Because purpose-driven business models create emotional connections that transcend price competition. But here is the deeper insight that Boaz reveals. He did not create dependency. He created opportunity. Ruth was not sitting around waiting for handouts. She was working hard in the field. Boaz simply tilted the playing field in her favor by leaving extra grain. She still had to do the labor. She still earned her provision. But he made success more accessible. This is genius-level business thinking. When you systematically build generosity into your operations, you create what I call a blessing ecosystem. You eliminate jealousy from competitors. You build fierce loyalty from customers. You attract top talent who want meaning with their paycheck. You protect your reputation in ways that money cannot buy. And here is the part that will shock you. This approach actually reduces risk. When your community knows you are blessing them, they protect you. When economic downturns come, purpose-driven businesses weather storms better because people root for them to succeed. Boaz was creating insurance through generosity, and it worked brilliantly. But Principle 4 reveals how he protected his operation from internal threats. Principle 4, the wealth protection of ethical standards. In Ruth chapter 2, verse 9, Boaz gives Ruth specific instructions that reveal his approach to risk management. I have ordered the young men not to touch you. When you are thirsty, go to the jars and drink what the young men have drawn. This might sound like basic decency, but in the ancient world, this was revolutionary workplace protection. Boaz recognized that Ruth, as a foreign widow, was vulnerable. Female workers in that era faced constant harassment and abuse. But Boaz used his authority as owner to establish clear boundaries. He did not wait for a problem to happen. He prevented it proactively. He created a safe environment where people could work without fear. Now watch how this connects to modern business disasters. We have seen massive corporations implode over workplace scandals. Uber lost billions in valuation over toxic culture revelations. WeWork collapsed, partly due to leadership misconduct. The Weinstein Company went bankrupt. Fox News paid out hundreds of millions in settlements. These were not just moral failures. These were catastrophic business failures that destroyed shareholder value, ruined reputations, and ended careers. And they all could have been prevented by applying the Boaz principle. Create clear ethical standards, communicate them explicitly, and enforce them consistently. But here is what most people miss. Ethical workplace culture is not just about avoiding lawsuits. It is about unlocking performance. Studies show that when people feel psychologically safe, they take more creative risks. They share ideas more freely. They collaborate more effectively. They stay with companies longer. Boaz also demonstrated something else in this passage. He invited Ruth to share in the provisions of his workers. He broke down social barriers. He treated a foreign gleaner with the same hospitality he showed his own employees. He created inclusion before it was a corporate buzzword. The modern application is profound. How you treat your lowest level contractor says more about your business character than how you treat your biggest client. How you protect the vulnerable reveals whether you are building something sustainable or just extracting value until it collapses. Principle 5, the multiplication power of recognition. In Ruth chapter 2, verses 11 and 12, Boaz does something that transforms Ruth's entire trajectory. He says, All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me. May the Lord reward you for your deeds." Notice what happened here. Boaz did not just see Ruth's labor in his field. He investigated her character. He learned about her sacrifice. He discovered she had left her entire homeland, her culture, her people, everything familiar, to care for her widowed mother-in-law. That kind of loyalty and selflessness was rare, and Boaz publicly acknowledged it. This is the principle of merit-based recognition, and it might be the most underutilized tool in business leadership. Most companies reward results while completely ignoring character. They promote the salesperson who hits quota while overlooking the fact that they destroyed team morale getting there. They celebrate the executive who boosted short-term profits while ignoring the ethical violations that will sink the company later. Boaz shows us something better. Yes, reward productivity, but also recognize integrity, sacrifice, loyalty, and going the extra mile. When you do this, you create a culture where people compete to be better humans, not just better performers. Think about the companies known for exceptional culture. Southwest Airlines hires for attitude and trains for skill. Zappos offers new employees money to quit after training because they only want people who truly want to be there. These companies understand that character creates culture, and culture creates results. But here is the multiplier effect. Boaz praised Ruth publicly. He did not pull her aside for a private compliment. He acknowledged her openly, in front of his workers. This accomplished three things simultaneously. First, it honored Ruth and motivated her. Second, it told everyone else what behaviors would be rewarded. Third, it set a cultural standard that shaped the entire operation. Your reward system determines your culture. If you only celebrate revenue, you will get revenue at any cost. But if you celebrate character, integrity, and purpose alongside performance, you will build something that lasts. Now, Principle 6 is where Boaz demonstrates mastery that most entrepreneurs lack entirely. Principle 6, the legacy protection of transparent dealings. In Ruth chapter 4, verses 1 through 9, we witness one of the most brilliant business transactions in history. Boaz wants to acquire land and marry Ruth, but there is a closer relative with first rights of redemption. What does Boaz do? He could have manipulated the situation. He was wealthy and influential. He could have pressured or bribed. Instead, he went to the city gate, assembled 10 elders as witnesses, and conducted the entire transaction publicly according to the law. This is what we call legal integrity and transparent dealings. And in today's environment, this principle has become more valuable than ever. One leaked email can destroy a reputation built over decades. One hidden conflict of interest can topple empires. One shady backroom deal can end careers and bankrupt companies. Think about Enron. At its peak, it was worth $90 billion. Then it came out that executives were hiding massive losses through accounting fraud. The company collapsed in weeks. Arthur Andersen, one of the big 5 accounting firms, was destroyed as collateral damage. Thousands of employees lost jobs and retirement savings, all because leadership chose shortcuts over transparency. Or consider Theranos. Elizabeth Holmes raised hundreds of millions by claiming revolutionary blood testing technology, but it was built on lies. When the truth emerged, the company dissolved. Investors lost everything, and Holmes went to prison. Temporary deception always leads to permanent destruction. Boaz understood this principle 3,000 years before modern scandals proved it. He conducted his business in sunlight, with witnesses, following proper legal procedures. And here is the stunning result. That transaction is recorded in Scripture and has been studied for millennia as a model of integrity. His transparency created a permanent positive record. Here is your practical application. In every major business decision, ask yourself if you would be comfortable with this transaction being examined publicly decades from now. If you are signing contracts, Ensure everything is documented properly. If you are negotiating deals, make sure all parties fully understand terms. If you are acquiring assets, follow legal procedures with appropriate witnesses and documentation. Boaz also demonstrated patience. He gave the closer relative opportunity to fulfill his obligation first. He did not manipulate or pressure. He presented facts and let the process unfold legally. Sometimes in business, you have to let opportunities pass because the terms are not ethical. Those choices, though costly in the moment, build reputations that become priceless over time. Principle 7. The eternal impact of redemptive purpose. Finally, we arrive at the deepest principle. In Ruth chapter 4, verse 10, Boaz reveals his true motivation. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon, to be my wife, to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance. This was not just a real estate deal. This was a mission of restoration. Boaz was using his wealth to redeem what was lost, to honor what was broken, to preserve a legacy that mattered. This is what I call the Redeemer vision, and it separates mere business success from lasting significance. Boaz could have simply bought the land as an investment property, but he chose to see it differently, as an opportunity to restore a broken family line, to provide for vulnerable widows, to honor the deceased by preserving their name and inheritance. The greatest entrepreneurs in history share this quality. They solve problems that matter. Henry Ford did not just manufacture automobiles. He democratized transportation and gave mobility to working families. Steve Jobs did not just design computers. He put powerful creative tools in ordinary people's hands. Walt Disney did not just build theme parks. He created multi-generational experiences of wonder and joy. When your business exists to redeem something, to fix what is broken, to restore what is lost, profit becomes a natural consequence rather than the primary objective. And ironically, purpose-driven businesses tend to be more profitable long-term than those driven purely by profit. Here is why. Customers increasingly choose brands that align with their values. Employees want meaning with their paychecks. Investors are pouring billions into impact investing. The market is rewarding redemptive business models because people are hungry for purpose. But here is what makes Boaz's story so powerful. His redemption of Ruth and Naomi resulted in him becoming the great-grandfather of King David and a direct ancestor of Jesus Christ. His name is honored eternally, not because of how much wealth he accumulated, but because of what he restored through that wealth. That is the ultimate question every entrepreneur must answer. What are you redeeming through your business? What problem are you solving that matters? What broken thing are you fixing? What legacy are you building that will outlast your lifetime? Because if your only answer is making money, you are building on sand. But if you are using business as a tool for redemption and restoration, you are building something eternal. Boaz was not just wealthy. He was wealthy with character. He built an empire on 7 principles that contradicted conventional wisdom but proved themselves across generations. Positive culture, strategic investigation, systematic generosity, ethical protection, merit-based recognition, transparent transactions, and redemptive purpose. These principles did not just create success in his lifetime, they ensured his legacy for eternity. His name is still honored 3,000 years later because he understood that true wealth is not what you accumulate, it is who you become and what you leave behind. So, here is my question for you. What kind of entrepreneur will you be? Will you chase profit at any cost, or will you build something that matters? Will you prioritize quarterly results or generational legacy? Will you be remembered as someone who extracted everything, or as someone who redeemed and restored? If you are ready to commit to building business with integrity, with purpose, with these 7 principles, comment Boaz right now. That is your public declaration, your commitment to the path of the noble entrepreneur, your choice to build wealth with character, profit with purpose, success with significance, and listen. Subscribe to Bible Ascent, because this is just the beginning. Solomon built an empire that made Boaz look modest by comparison. His strategies for international trade, massive building projects, and wealth creation revolutionized an entire region. The principles you learn today are your foundation, but there is an entire treasury of biblical business wisdom waiting to be unlocked. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready, because you are not just building a business, you are building a legacy. You are not just making money, you are making an impact. You are not just succeeding in commerce, you are succeeding in character. That is the Boaz way. That is the Bible Ascent way. That is the path from profit to purpose, from success to significance, from wealth to legacy. The choice is yours. Make it count.